In the consumer good category, you need three things for it to be successful. Number first is product, second is the price point, and third is the distribution. If you can crack these three things, there is no reason why a consumer good won't work in India. As founders, you fall in love with your product. You become delusional about कि इससे अच्छा कुछ है ही नहीं यार, market में मैं जैसे ही जाऊंगा ये चल जाएगा. Reality hits you when you being frugal is extremely important. I think it should not be an option. It should be a given for a startup. And the second is, again, as I said, execution. You have to be clear, laser focused on what it is that you want and you work it upwards. But then the problem is,
how do you gather the courage to put up 20 crores? Manufacturing पहले चलाई नहीं होगी, तो वो कैसे figure out किया? What went behind making it? Hello. Before we get started with this episode, I quickly wanted to share that we are now a part of the Zerodha Media Network. Thank you so much for watching. Welcome to the Indian Silicon Valley podcast. I'm your host, Beverage, and today I have with me a guest whose product I'm so fond of, and I'm sure all of you listening are incredibly delighted by the product, by its taste, and have it at your homes in some shape or form. Join me in welcoming Mr. Saurabh Munjal, who's the co-founder and CEO of Lahori Zeera.
thank you so much, Raj, for having me. It's been a while since we've been trying to do this, but I'm really happy to be here and doing this.
No, you're so kind, so nice, and I hope all of that comes across alongside the insane business that you've built. I mean, beyond even the business, I think as a consumer, as I was saying, like love the product. I don't think I've ever stopped at one. And post that as a business, it's such a fascinating case study. Like I was telling you, it's so difficult to crack beverages outside, and it feels like nobody's been able to crack it, especially at the price point that you're playing, especially with the kind of manufacturing that you have, the kind of distribution that you have. It is a distinct case study in itself, and all less than 8 years now.
7 years,
so I think 7 years. So it's been such a marvelous journey, and I want to decode all of it. What I'm most excited to hear is I'm usually used to talking to people who've built a market for like the top 1% of India, top 5% of India. You, of course, on contrary, are selling 10 rupee products to every kirana store, and people are buying from there, and people like me are buying, right?
Correct.
Talk to us about how you look at this customer base, why people buy Lahori Zeera, what are your learnings just from the customer? I think let's start there and then we'll go deeper.
I'm really happy to start over there, but before that, I'd like to sort of
set context.
Not set context per se, but just give you some, take you away from what you sort of how you introduced me.
Please.
You said that we've built a phenomenal business. I beg to differ.
Mm-hmm.
What we've done so far is reasonably good, but what we want to do from this point on is far more important. I think not enough impetus is generally given to what the future sort of holds for the brand.
I agree.
What we've been able to do is just find proof of concept of what we're trying to build.
Mm-hmm.
There is no two ways about it, that the product has built a certain love in the consumers, and that has happened organically.
Absolutely.
So that clearly justifies and shows that there is genuine proof of concept in terms of product market fit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we want to build for the future is that the unfortunate part is Indians love food. Food and beverages is something that just comes inherently with us. But unfortunately, how many brands can you think of that are from India in the F&B space? Very, very few.
Yeah.
There are few names, but just few that you can count on your fingertips. And that's the unfortunate piece. I feel Indians love food and beverages, and they deserve to build sort of brands which are world class. And that's what we sort of intend to do. And that's the most important piece. What we want to do is build a world class beverage brand. And first for India, make sure it has a national presence, has that love from India by an Indian, but for the world eventually. We want this to sort of go outside and sell and do very well, like how MNCs from outside come and sell in India, like how popular a Prime is. Imagine out of nowhere, a drink comes in, sells like really well, and they can come and sell in India. Why can't an Indian brand go outside and sell? So that's the thought process.
That's the premise. No, I love that. I think the first time we interacted, which was at ISB Mohali, I remember you leaving the stage and also mentioning that we are just getting started. Abhi to kuch hua hi nahi hai, because you are scratching the surface, and that ambition just speaks volumes. And also the market opportunity is so large, which is ahead of you, right? So no, absolutely reckon that, and we are only rooting for you. I think the purpose is to ensure that people look at you and say that, okay, if he can do it, and if he's just getting started, so can everybody else. So that's the objective. But no, thanks for reiterating that. And yes, now I think coming to so many different kinds of customers, such a diverse India, how do you service different kinds of people with that same bottle, that same very tasty bottle across flavors, across everything? How do you look at the customer?
So, again, to give you some context, how it all started was actually on the consumer thesis only. So, the primary thesis was we realized India is an extremely heterogeneous country. Every 100 kilometers, the language, the taste profile, the modus operandi, everything changes. It's a very different India within India, right? A curry, a basic product, जो घर पे खाते हैं हम, it has a different taste in north versus a west versus an east versus a south. Everybody has their own interpretations of these products, right? But there's one thing that really binds the country together, which is the street food of India. No matter what part of the country you're in, people just love their street food. And that is where we realized that the chatpata masaledar flavors, this is what binds everybody together. This just comes naturally to Indians. And that is what the real thesis was. That is what we wanted to focus on. That because there was no other option, there was no other opportunity. Somebody formulated a cola in the US or in the Europe and then eventually came to India because there was no other option. People just got used to of having that. This doesn't come naturally. It's an adopted flavor at the end of the day. What comes naturally to us is chaat, the Indian street food. And therefore, we wanted to build a brand around the ethnic Indian flavors, wanted to build a brand that was inspired from the Indian kitchen. That was the thought process behind. Also, what we realized is thumbs up. It's a prime example of how folks tried to sort of subdue the brand as much as they could. But at the end of the day, it was the first $1 billion revenue brand for Coke. Clearly shows how much we love our chatpata strong flavors, right? And that was the thesis ki Indians naturally have a tendency to go for chatpata masaledar. And we wanted to build a brand around that. The consumer love came and it was because of, so now what had happened is initially this is eventually a product of indulgence. Nobody's going to die if somebody's not having Lahori, right? It's an indulgence. They want to fulfill that. But when it comes to even indulgences, it's generally on the go. People on the go would sort of consume it. But what happened for Lahori and how life changed for us is that from a product being on the go where people would consume it on a per bottle basis, instead people started picking up the entire case because they had confident. And the use case, the occasion of consuming Lahori became so many that it just started making sense for them to buy in cases. Like, for example, let me give you an example. Somebody walks into your house and you want to serve them something like a tea or a coffee or maybe some thanda, and that's when Lahori is an option. It's a small bottle. Don't even need to pour it in a glass. Just put the bottle in front of them. They'll consume and they'll throw it in a dustbin. Nobody even needs to wash their utensils. So it's just convenience. So any celebration that is happening in the house, any occasion, irrespective of the price point, irrespective of the occasion that they're trying to sort of come together for, it just works everywhere. It just fits in very seamlessly everywhere. And therefore, that's the reason why it became popular. It makes sense. And another insight that we sort of realized only off late is that, which is very unique, is that the eldest member of the family is the one introducing the product in the family first, which is weird. If you think about it, the younger Gen Z or the millennials are the ones looking for new experiences and trying new products. But in our case, because we're not doing any sort of branding because of lack of resources or whatever, the eldest member of the family, the dada, dadi, nana, nani, they are consuming it for one reason or the other, for functional reasons. And then they sort of bless their children and grandchildren to try this product and have this instead. And that's such a beautiful,
joyful thing
for the brand.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I will continuously say this through the podcast that I love the product, and I wish, in fact, we should have gotten bottles here. But no, I think that's very clear. I think there's also a quantitative side to this. I remember you mentioning, right, like the 90% of our beverage market is primarily like, black cola drinks.
Yes,
like,
correct.
Can you expand a bit on that? Because I thought that was really insightful. It's natural, but I don't think realize hota hai day to day pe.
Correct. So basically what we realized was at the time when we were sort of building our thesis is that we wanted to come up with a differentiation. We did not want to just come up with a Me Too product and try and put branding behind it, because we know we don't have the might. to fight against the bigger giants, right, who dominate the industry. So we knew the only way to sort of survive, or the only way to win, what was our right to win, was product innovation. It had to stand out. It had to be something meaningful. As a matter of fact, it's my personal opinion, I feel in the consumer good category, I think you need three things for it to be successful. Number first is product. Product is numero uno. No way, no second thoughts about it, right? And the product has to be has to have its cravability. It has to have that cravability about it. Second is the price point, and third is the distribution. If you can crack these three things, there is no reason why a consumer good won't work in India. These three things are top. First is the product. Even if you solve for distribution, you'll get the product placed. So there are multiple products that giants, sort of consumer good giants across, not just beverages, just consumer goods in general, they launch. They get the shelf because they have the distribution might, but they don't work, because at the end of the day, if the product doesn't have cravability, consumers won't come back for it. You need to appreciate that this is an indulgence. If an indulgence doesn't fulfill your desire, it doesn't quench that desire, that temptation, then it doesn't solve for anything. People were not going to buy it.
No.
It's not like rice, atta, your basics that you require for survival. So therefore, product cravability is numero uno.
Wow, I love that. I think that's a very, very good framework for anybody. And I want to dissect each of that for your brand. But before we get there, I think it'll be really helpful if you can give us a sense of scale, right? Like, I was fascinated to hear that you have 50 lakh bottles every day that are being produced now. And that's the capacity.
Correct.
That is phenomenal. If you can give us and like 1.5 retail touch points, I mean, just give us a sense of broad scale of the brand. I think that'll help us envision where you've come. And also maybe like, because we started with the aspiration, right? Like, how far do you see this going? And then we'll go into different parts of the business that I feel are worth like double clicking into.
So when we started with a rather small capacity. It was with 96,000 bottles a day.
Okay.
That was a very small capacity. That's the smallest line that one can buy, where unit economics would make sense.
Okay.
From that time to today, we have a capacity of 50 lakh bottles today. In the
50x.
next 50 lakh bottles every day we can produce. And in the next 4 months, I think it'll sort of scale to about 85 lakh bottles a day.
Wow.
And in 6 months from now, should be more than a
crore?
More than a crore.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
So that's the story. In terms of touch points, so honestly, touch points is something that you sort of get into when the brand matures, because you need a large feet on street to capture those touch points. Nobody's going to give you that data.
Right.
You will have to capture that data by yourself, by your own team. And given the fact that our unit economics is extremely difficult to manage at the 10 rupee price point with 40% GST, it's extremely difficult to have a large fleet, right? And our distribution model, those guys are not going to help us capture retail touch points. They are just busy selling in whatever retail base they have and to wholesaler networks. And then from there, wherever it goes, it's very difficult to keep a track of that. So you need technically feet on street to capture your retail touch points. And retail touch points, we've just started that process, but we can proudly tell you that we are at more than 300,000 retail touch points that we've already mapped and are mapping on a constant basis.
3 lakh.
Yeah.
Wow. And overall, how many customers broadly?
Difficult to tell. That number could be very large, but all I can tell you is if you can just do the maths, 50 lakh bottles every day are being sold.
So
I mean, the supply even today, touchwood, the demand always is far
extra,
more than the supply,
100%.
and therefore clearly that it is being consumed by, obviously there's a large repeat audience, but newer people are trying it as well.
100%, sure. And I think 95+% of your business must be offline. Is it 99?
So it's 99%. So a very so honestly, general trade is the key source of distribution when it comes to consumer goods, especially beverages. Because especially you need to understand and appreciate that this is a low value, high volume
business.
Item. In that case, anything else doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I agree. No, I think, I've had it on a lot of kirana stores, but every time I try to find out Blinkit in Gurgaon, I will not find it. Even if I'm willing, like, I mean, wo badi crates hote hain, ispe 22 bottles wale, but it's not available, always sold out. So I can imagine it's a supply constraint. In terms of, broad geography split, whereas, I'm guessing that I remember talking to you about this. There are a lot of these local regional brands which have also done something similar,
Correct.
but they've not been able to scale it. Price is a bit different
Correct.
here and there. Taste is not constant. How is your business split in that aspect?
So honestly, while we were sort of building our thesis, this was thesis number 3. The feedback that we got from the retailers and distributors was that there are folks in the industry, operating in small pockets across the country. They had products, but they were operating like they were commodities. They would produce and focus on selling, and after that, nothing doing. They didn't care about where it was going, how it was selling, the reason why it was selling. They were not really building a brand around it. There was no communication with the consumer at all. And that was the feedback that we got, that there is no local Indian brand sort of focusing on building a brand. And that feedback was organically coming from the distributors, because they're the first touch points, right? And they sort of get that feedback from local consumers that we want something local, but consistency nahi hai. So there are folks who would, and we're not the first ones to manufacture jeera in all of India. Maybe in the north and the eastern part there weren't a lot of jeera manufacturers. Our product was also especially different because we were the only ones with floating ingredients in it, which were edible. So nobody had sort of made that jeera. And as you previously mentioned, everybody was working towards jeera formulation, which was more synthetic. So you sort of mix a certain percentage of water in a formulation which is bought from some place else. Whereas the entire formulation is ours. So that proprietary nature of formulation, which has natural ingredients, really has stood us apart.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. So today, now we've established that 50 lakh per day, soon going to a crore per day. Very, very large business in terms of 99 sort of percentage coming offline. I know the revenue run rate, you might not say it, but it's 500 plus crores, actually way more. And it's just like very split in terms of geography, yet you have so much depth to cover in the country, and it's just getting started. Now let's go a bit into the day zero, right? Like 2016. I think what's fascinating is ki a lot of people are not, when they look at a very, very large market with such a large competitor, it's easy to get scared, right? And if you would say this without proof of concept, people would perhaps laugh you off, right? Like, I want to build a Coca-Cola competitor. Just feels very funny at the onset, right? Yeah. So borderline stupid, right? But I think that's what it takes to build a company like that you have. Talk to us about what was the conviction, right? I mean, I can only imagine at the time what you would have thought. You were not only convinced, but you also bootstrapped it with a significant amount of capital, right? Which is putting your money where your mouth is. It's not just saying, hame blind faith hai, I'll go and raise on it. We will put our money, we will build a great product. So what was the day zero like? What were the discussions like?
So the three of us, the three brothers, myself and my two cousins. So basically, we were of the same age and we wanted to build something together. And we had no clue about it. So it was just very random. We would just sit on multiple occasions trying to brainstorm what is it that we can do, how a basic typical 24-25-year-old would do. And we would spend a lot of time together trying to figure this out. That's when we sort of tasted this product that one of my cousins, Nikhil, sort of made this. And he just went to the kitchen, dashed a few things together and like, ye try karo. And he would do that quite often because he's blessed with good culinary skills. So usko kuch na kuch acha khana bina wo banata hai. So we would do that quite often. And that's when we sort of came across this product. Once we had it, so eureka moment hota na, it was just that. It was just realization ki this is it. Matlab, ye
this is crazy.
But that wasn't enough. We wanted to build an entire thesis. Eventually, capital lagni thi. Because it was at the 10 rupee price point, we couldn't have afforded to sort of get it contract manufactured, because then technically it wouldn't have made sense. So capital chahiye thi, capital ke ghar walon ko convince karna tha. So it was a large task. We put everything on paper. We built an entire thesis. Kya karna hai, kya nahi karna, kyun, what was the payback period, everything about it. We did a lot of hard work at that point in time, trying to build ki whether does it make sense only in our heads. Are we as founders? You fall in love with your product, and then you become delusional about कि इससे अच्छा कुछ है ही नहीं यार, मार्केट में मैं जैसे ही जाऊंगा ये चल जाएगा. So it doesn't work like that. Reality hits you when you first time go to the market, and it's a very different conversation. but we were convinced कि after doing the entire framework कि there is space, consumers want it, distributors are ready for it, and the market is very underpenetrated. And as a matter of fact, we are not the only industry. Any industry where there is like a duopoly or very few people operating and have a very large market share, those industries are being disrupted at this point.
कुछ तो बनेगा
For example, a VIP bag and a Samsonite, Mokobara is doing a killer job at it.
Crazy
right?
job.
And so many more industries, so many more examples. For example, Masters Union.
Yeah.
Imagine education, few people which are doing large things, IIT, IIM, and maybe ISB.
Yeah.
They've just disrupted this by
Absolutely.
doing something different. There's a product differentiation. Everywhere you will see there is a differentiation. You can't just go with the same product and say ki I come with the marketing mind, because you don't.
Yeah.
This is the honest truth. The only way, the right to win is the product, which is, as I said, product, service, or whatever.
Correct.
Has to be numero uno. That is the reason why your right to win or your right to survival is there.
Awesome. No, I love that. Kitna time laga between the Eureka moment versus convincing?
1 year.
1 year.
9 months.
Oh wow. 9 months to get convinced. So you put in homework. Good homework.
Proper work. We did a lot of pilots. We actually got made small batches at home and then went to the retailers. Actual दुकान पे जाके खड़े होके लोग consumers को, retailers को taste कराया.
और खुद ही बना रहे थे अभी.
हाँ, खुद ही
एकदम
बना रहे थे.
manual सारी चीजें.
But basis that feedback, we altered the taste of the formulation quite a bit.
Let's get to the formulation. I think there is this big mystery, right? Like the Coca-Cola formulation is proprietary. It's a formula. One of the most guarded secrets in the world is considered to be that formula. What is it that makes your product so special, so distinct? How is it proprietary? What has gone into making it happen?
So first, the fact that it actually was made at home by one person and then it was shared with the 2 other folks. Today, as of today, I can tell you that only 3 people on this planet know that formulation.
Oh, wow.
So if get rid of 3 people or lock them in a room, you won't find more Lahori Zeera. So that's the honest truth. But come to think of it, imagine yourself, everybody has dadi, nanis at home. If you have stomach ache or if you speak to them that you have a stomach ache or a bad throat or something like that, the first thing they'll recommend is your desi nuskas, right? And those desi nuskas would have ingredients like cumin, black salt, ginger powder, tamarind, stuff like this, right? The entire formulation is based on that. Add sugar to it, and you have your Lahori Zeera is ready.
Lovely.
So that's the thought process. The idea from the very beginning was ki Nimbu Pani is something which is so basic and so core to Indians, right? They call it lemonade outside, but India mein Nimbu Pani bolte hain, shikanji bolte hain, right? And across, we wanted to make the next best thing, the next best alternate to that. And it was as simple as that. And then build formulas which were actually, we were all consuming it without even realizing it. So the entire formulation is just around that.
Yeah. No, I love every time I hear you, I feel like some of these insights are so simple,
It's right in
direct,
front of you.
Yeah, but
You
it's
don't
so
realize
difficult
it.
to execute, right? And just to get everything together is the magic, I think, which is what you've established. On the formulation itself, I also think that I was surprised to know कि इतने सारे SKUs हैं, right? Like, of course.
No, as a matter of fact, we have the smallest portfolio.
Smallest pie.
We have like literally we've got 7 SKUs.
Achha.
Barely any SKUs.
Yeah,
So actually we believe in that.
Okay.
I think for a consumer good company, so a lot of consumer good companies, what they do is they have like a large portfolio of SKUs and then they have this large distribution network. तो growth कहाँ से आ रही है वो पता ही नहीं चलता. Numbers grow हो रहे हैं, revenue सब grow हो रहा है,
but your product की आ रही है क्यों?
Per geography growth, per market growth, वो that is your real insight. वो life का सत्य है. Consumer good के लिए this is the reality.
Correct.
If you are able to figure this out कि आपकी per SKU growth या per market growth क्या है, उसके अंदर penetrate हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा, आपका repeat percentage आ रहा है कि नहीं आ रहा, तब तक everything is just numbers.
Yeah, that's all
They're
false.
just
Correct.
Yeah.
No, I think abhi I was talking to somebody who's like cafe chains mein, if you're opening constant cafes, your revenue is growing.
Obviously.
But if your per store EBITDA, etc. is not adding up, then you're not doing the right job. But no, thanks a ton for sharing. But on that piece, right, now that you have distribution, a name build, we recognize your bottle from far away. How do you look at things around like new product development? I'm diverging here, but I think now the challenge for you is how do you keep penetrating the market further? How do you go outside? Maybe a new formulation is required there, right? So what is the thought around NPD? You're coming up with cans, you're
Yeah.
coming up with different form factors. We're talking about mango, etc. Right?
It's about
How are you thinking about it?
So honestly, NPD is a very real conversation that we have with our employees first. So imagine our sales employee is the first person to be in touch from the company with the market. And then the distributors. We actually invite distributors directly. We meet them every year in our office. You've been to the office.
Yeah.
We meet them every year in our office just to have that interaction ki boss market mein chal kya raha hai? What is it that the consumer are asking for? We're in the market ourselves to try and figure this out ki boss what. So there's a difference between what the incumbents are sort of serving versus what the real requirement in the market is.
Correct.
So a consumer is consuming something that does not necessarily mean that is what the consumer wants.
Correct.
They're probably having it because there was a lack of choice. But
There's no other option.
But inside, they want something, they desire something, but they wish they had it.
Correct.
So we're actually in the market ourselves. All three of us, we're very, very connected and grounded like that to sort of be in the market, to stay in touch with the consumers directly, with the distributors. So that is where the entire feedback cycle is very organic, and that is where we sort of pick up the ingredients from, the grains from ki kya chahiye market ke andar, and then we build the entire new products around that. The R&D is around that.
Can you give us some stories ki matlab kya
For example,
on ground kya nikla?
For example, I'll tell you. So we launched the second SKU that we launched 2 years into the business was Lahori Nimbu. Yeah, that was 2019 2020 I think. When we launched that, at that point in time, we were extremely excited about it because my favorite formulation between all of them is Lahori Nimbu actually. More than the Zeera, I love Nimbu. And we were extremely happy and excited. And in Punjab, where we were first launched our product, people were very happy and positive about it. Good product, we like it, it sells well and everything. But then we went to Delhi. Delhi mein, the feedback that came in कि नींबू तो अच्छा है, प्रोडक्ट बहुत अच्छा है, बट हमारे यहाँ पे शिकंजी चलता है. बोला भाई अब नींबू शिकंजी एक ही चीज होती है, आप उसको नींबू शिकंजी बोल दो, बट इवेंचुअली इज द सेम थिंग. हाउ व्हाट डू आई डू अबाउट इट? एंड हमने सोचा, बट निखिल केम अप विद एन आइडिया, let me make a different formulation. One is lemon based, one is lime based. Now we have another SKU called Lahori Shikanji, which sells better in Delhi till today, and Lahori Nimbu sells better in Punjab till today.
Oh really?
So these are the sort of insights that you get from your distributors, from your sales guys, from your consumers. Ki boss, this is what I want. So you build around that. So this is the power that a local brand would have. Anybody like a powerhouse, like a big MNC, would not be able to go local like that. Whenever we launch in the south, or wherever we launch someplace where there is a particular flavor which is extremely popular and something people really relish, we definitely do some R&D and build a SKU around that flavor.
That's very interesting. I love that. Is it also कि आपका cost of, I guess, failure now come hai because you own the manufacturing, you own the supply. So do you do trials very often, and उसमें क्या
I
insight
think
निकला?
for a consumer company's cost of failure बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं है, Jivraj. So imagine if even if I was contract manufacturing, what's the worst that'll happen? I'll get a small batch made, and that batch would not work. It'll get expired. It's not a big cost. I don't think you have to be accepting about it. Correct. So there's a particular flavor, and I shouldn't be saying this, but there's a particular flavor called Imli Banta. Achha. There's a particular SKU. We launched it year into the since when we launched it, there wasn't the kind of response. We did not blink even once when we let it go. Ki boss, it was one of the portfolio, but now it's not there because people have not liked the formulation so much, and we let it go. You need to be accepting about the reality of life. जो ये सत्य होते हैं ना, ये मानने पड़ते हैं, accept करना है. You need to take it head on. This is, you don't have to have an ego, or you don't have to fall in love, or you don't have to be too attached to stuff like this.
Very interesting. ऐसा और भी कोई insight था क्या that you went into market thinking one thing, but customer ने आके आपको surprise कर दिया? ऐसे कुछ और stories हैं क्या?
So consumers will surprise you all the time, but distributors also. I think वहाँ पर भी
distributor भी customer ही है.
So technically yes, they are our customers, but they have a different operators. Mendy, everywhere they operate very differently. So for example, a place like Bombay, when we launched there, we just, what we did, we thought North mein it made sense. There is a certain thing that has worked for us. We should just Control C, Control V the entire thing and sort of launch it over there. And that's what we did, thinking ki because if it has worked in one place, it should work in the other as well. But wahan ke the incumbents had a certain way of operating. वहाँ का thought process एक अलग था, वहाँ के realities different थे. For example, वहाँ पे per square footage cost is so much higher than any of the places that we've been operating. Nobody keeps stocks over there. You have to refurbish them on everyday basis. They don't like to stock up at all. Nobody likes to unload. Unloading की responsibility भी हमारे पे डाल देते हैं. So उधर the way to operate is very different. So we just went there thinking aise hoega, and it was a disaster. We launched and people were not ready to stock. The folks who were ready to stock were not actually people who were in the business. They just wanted to set up a new business, and we generally are very, very peculiar about picking up our distributors. They are our strength, honestly. It is because I have to give them the credit. It is because of the great experience and the great depth that they have, the distributors that we have, they have in their core geographies, is where our strength really lies. They get us the right shelves, they get us the right retailers. So we started working with the wrong set of people, and that sort of spoiled the entire year. That was a learning insight. We didn't see it coming. We only learned it the hard way.
Very interesting. I think all very, very valuable. I think because ये सारी learnings in depth ground पे ही आती है और
करके गलती समझ आती है.
हाँ, thank you so much for sharing. But चलो, let's come back. तो हमने समझ लिया कि thesis ready हो गई. Now you have to, put up a manufacturing plant, right? And you invested 20 crores in it, right? How do you gather the courage to put up 20 crores? Manufacturing पहले चलाई नहीं होगी, तो वो कैसे figure out किया? What was that like? Like, tell us about that process, क्योंकि अभी तो हमें बहुत अच्छा product दिखने को मिलता है, right? We consume it and we love it. But what was it what went behind making it? I want to understand further.
So basically, we never hired a consultant. Okay. We did everything on our own. Wow. Trying to figure out what machinery to buy, how to set it up, how the plant should be set up. And we had no background about it. Even though my father is a first-gen entrepreneur and he has a manufacturing facility, but it's a very different facility. It's into pharmaceuticals and it's a very different ballgame than what we were getting into. So we visited like multiple plants, like a lot of plants, about 30, 40 plants. By one name or the other, by one way or the other. We went to these manufacturing facilities. We understood, we saw what worked, what did not work. We spoke to the folks at the ground level, at the shop floor. So folks like founders or promoters sort of who own it will never say bad thing about their own plants, right?
Correct.
But the GM or the line manager, the line operator, they would really tell that, sir, ये चलता है, ये बहुत problem है, ये ऐसे होता तो बहुत अच्छा होता. That's where we got a lot of insight from. So during those 9 months, we were doing all of this parallel.
Got it.
So we visited a lot of plants. We understood what works, what line would fit our budget, because that is also major constraint, right?
Yeah.
You have limited capital. So like in any other industry, you have like the Maruti, the Honda, and the Mercedes in terms of the quality of machine, right? But we can only afford something. So even though you want to sort of set up something else, but you can only afford something. So we bought whatever the best was in our price budget. We understood, we figured, we negotiated with that guy for 9 months. Starting see quotations Delhi सबसे, and then we kept negotiating with them until they came to our price, and then we finally bought it.
Wow.
So we set up the facility like that. That was a great learning curve. We made mistakes over there as well, but every year when we kept adding lines, kept adding capacities, we kept getting better at it. We stopped making those mistakes. Newer mistakes were made, but today we feel the plant that we're setting up in UP, again, it's a large scale plant, but again, no consultant. We know exactly what we're up to. There's a lot of know-how that now has come into the picture, which was not previously there. So गलती करी सीखते गए, गलती करी सीखते गए, गलती करी सीखते गए. But we were making decisions. We were not stopping.
Yeah.
सही गलत, make a decision, learn from it, move on. But we were just acting very fast.
I love it. Very, very strong learnings. If you believe in the product, अगर thesis है, then you have to put up manufacturing.
I think another thing that's important is it wasn't all glory since the very beginning. First 2 years were a little bit of a struggle to convince that first distributor. So folks who blessed us, we went with our pilot batches, made them try the product, and then asked them for their feedback. They were very positive. कि नहीं बच्चे करो, you should do it. It's a great product. It'll do well. Market में requirement ऐसी चीज की positive. जब इतनी मेहनत कर ली, सब सेटअप कर लिया, negotiate कर लिया, plant setup कर लिया, we were extremely bullish कि kill कर देंगे, मजा आ जाएगा. All we need to do is get the first batch ready. We got the first batch ready. We went to the same folks who said कि बहुत अच्छा है. उसने बोला रख जाओ, बिक गया तो पैसे ले जाना, नहीं तो माल वापस लाना. अभी कल तो आप बोल रहे थे कि आप you'll do so well. But then reality
Such
hit
is
us when
life.
reality hit us when we sort of went to the market for the first time. Distributors and retailers are ruthless. They are the most efficient businessmen, I must tell you. Retailer का भी एक working capital होता है. उसके पास वो 10, 15, 20 हजार रुपए का, डिपेंडिंग ऑन द साइज ऑफ द रिटेल शॉप दैट ही हैज, उसने इन्वेंट्री सुबह लेनी होती है. You have to get there at the earliest hour possible because he has a lot of cash at that point in time. वो माल खरीदेगा. By the end of the his intent is to sort of sell it out. And then वो जो profit होता है उसकी कमाई होती है. And the next morning he'll refurbish the stock. So they are extremely ruthless. They'll only keep stuff that sells fast and gives them margins. And that was our entry point as well, to be honest with you.
Correct.
The only reason why we were able to establish ourselves is by convincing those retailers. Ki boss, this is the product. This is how the maths would work. This is how much money you would make. We got them to taste the product, to get them on board. Ki boss, this is a product that people will come back for. You just give it one shot. तो उन्होंने रखा एक बॉक्स, कोई 2 बॉक्स, एक बॉक्स, 2 बॉक्स, आधा बॉक्स, ऐसे करके हमने ऑर्डर्स लिए डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स का. So before the first truck landed with the distributor, we sold the entire product. All he had to do was just deliver the product. He already had the orders from his jurisdiction, from his market. Otherwise, he wasn't ready to write the first check. Since day one till today, we've never sold on credit.
Oh, wow.
And this is how we sort of opened every market. We went with our retail, with our sales team, got those orders within the distributor's jurisdiction, got him to just deliver the orders that we found for him. And that's how the confidence got built.
So you would approach the retailer, get the
them
orders,
get them to taste. So 1 case, half a case, 2
Acha.
case per shop, per kirana shop. And also another good thing for us is we're literally expanding the category. If you actually understand, not all products fit the bill when it comes to A-class outlets and your pan wala shops. Not
correct. Yeah.
Right? So our product is something that fits everywhere. It fits the bill everywhere. And therefore, what we are literally doing is building up, expanding the category. Folks who were never a part of this category are joining in this because of us. And that is one of the reasons as to why it was easier for us to sort of get in, because everybody got convinced. From your small pan shop, वो भी लेता था आधी पेटी एक पेटी, और A-class stores वो भी लेते थे.
Wow, that is again super interesting. I also wanted to understand pricing, right? मतलब 10 रुपए की bottle बेचना, I can't even imagine, right? कि कितना difficult होता होगा. And then GST, margin, distributor margin, आपका margin. How do you make money on it? Like how do you, मतलब 1-2 रुपए का product कैसे बना सकते हो आप? Tell us how you've cracked pricing. क्योंकि वही outside in, also new age founders also now face complete difficulty in saying this only. Why are all products priced higher? Because उनकी manufacturing higher है, उनको cost high पड़ती है, उनको margin रखना होता है. तो what is the formula to crack pricing? और आपने कैसे crack किया अपने product के लिए?
I think it'll go down to being nimble and execution. 2 things.
Okay.
Very, very important. Our overheads are as low as one can imagine. But more importantly, just keeping overheads low is not going to solve the purpose. Most importantly, the execution. From day one, we knew we could not afford to we didn't really have money or capital to lose or burn or anything like that. Yeah,
Right.
These are the words that are, and it's funny how people ask, are you profitable? I mean, why are you in business if you're not profitable? Is either you're building a category like a Zomato or Amazon did, which is completely habit formation, is an expensive affair and it is life-changing. But your basic business, basic product businesses, I don't think one can afford to sort of lose money. The new age founders do, but we don't come from that thought process. That mindset is not there. We're a little old school like that. So since day one, we've been profitable. Execution is key. We knew where we could save money by being close to the consumers, by having a certain MOQ, by having one SKU or fewer SKUs. All of that helps in sort of reducing your cost, your changeover cost, your CIP cost, your output, everything. All of that small pieces help. Your vendor negotiations. So we as a brand are extremely loyal, whether it's vendors, whether it's employees, whether it's our consumers or distributors. We make sure that whoever has partnered with us sort of goes all the way. Whenever in the journey, so I generally say this quite a lot. So imagine yourself to be a tree, which is giving shade to your vendors, employees, investors. The entire stakeholders setup is right underneath you. If the tree continues to grow and the rest of the folks underneath you are not growing, eventually they will stop getting the shade and they'll just run away. So
Right.
you need to make sure everybody grows alongside the tree. And that is how real growth happens. And that is just how we've operated. We've made sure that we're loyal with our vendors, but they've also been very supportive in terms of giving us the most competitive price and the best quality products, the raw material or the packaging material. So therefore, that has really helped us getting the best negotiated prices. Number one, number two, then execution. Whether that's MOQ dispatch, being close to the consumer, strategically deciding where to have the locations of factories. All of this has sort of gone behind making sure that we are profitable at the end of the day. But it's extremely, extremely challenging.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Can you give us broad unit economics on the product?
So, mota, I can tell you that this is a 35% gross margin sort of a business.
Let's break it down. 10 रुपए की अगर बॉटल है तो मतलब 3-4 रुपए में लेट्स से ग्रॉस मार्जिन है हमारा, 6 रुपए बचे, उसके बाद क्या जाएगा?
So instead you need to go the other way around, that 10 rupees में से 40% GST.
अच्छा, तो 6 रुपए से स्टार्ट करते हैं.
So 6 rupees, but at the broader level, at a 35%
GM.
gross margin, and then CM1, CM2, there's a high logistics cost given that there is low
distributor network
and low value.
Oh yeah.
So it becomes so the entire truck would cost less than 3 lakh rupees.
Wow.
So there's literally very high volume, very high weight, but low value. So therefore freight becomes very, very big.
Important as a line item.
So but at the end of the day, we do an EBITDA between anything between a 15 to 20%.
Oh wow. On a 10 rupee product after GST, etc. That's crazy. I love it. No, thank you so much for sharing. Hopefully a lot of founders building products can, be more frugal.
So being frugal is extremely important. I think it should not be an option. It should be a given. For a startup. Only when you're trying to build systems and processes and then trying to sort of build an institution around it, that's when I feel ki you can afford to sort of let go and you have to hire people who can really take on the entire thing. Until then, I think it's a given for a startup founder. And the second is, again, as I said, execution. You have to be clear, laser focused on what it is that you want and you work it upwards. मतलब दो चीजें होते हैं, या तो आप उसको ऐसा प्राइस करो कि आपके ये खर्चे and then you price it that. But then the problem is that you're not finding the right TG for that. Instead, work the other way around. This is the price point and then work backwards and figure out कि आप कहाँ पर पैसे बचाओ.
Very interesting. No, I love that approach. The next thing is the marketing piece, right? Now, so many new age brands spend so much on CAC, right? And that becomes such a big figure. That is why they have to expand prices, etc. Now, I'd love to know your marketing expense, by the way, just broadly, because I'm guessing it's going to be very, very low single digits, right? In terms of percentage. But it still stands out. You've put in a lot of effort in the packaging, bottle cap pe kuch likha hai, because so many ripoffs are also now getting created, right? But there's something distinct about the bottle, so you've not compromised there. You, like, now that you're putting a couple of ads, those are also going really viral. You put your mind to it, you put great work out. How do you look at things around marketing, brand, etc., packaging perhaps, now that the product is built? आपको faith है कि अगर कोई try करेगा तो बहुत अच्छा है, but retention, brand, recall कैसे create करना है?
Correct. So I think marketing is an extremely important tool, and a lot of people I've spoken to keep telling me कि sir आपने marketing इतनी late क्यों शुरू करी? And I keep telling them, यार, your definition of marketing versus my definition of marketing is quite different. I've always been marketing. You've just not been able to notice it. Advertisement, branding, maybe one thing. Maybe I wasn't doing advertisement back in the day, but branding, marketing is something that I've always been at it, but in my own subtle ways.
Yes.
Which is to say, packaging kaisi honi chahiye, which is to say, how do I communicate with my consumers, my distributors, my stakeholders, investors, everybody, employees. So that is also a part of marketing, but people don't really appreciate that. But we've always been very consistent in in how we communicate with everybody, with all our stakeholders. And honestly, the new age founders, what they do is, they launch a product, they raise funds, and then they get a face on board, or they spend heavily on marketing and then try and build a marketplace with themselves. But I feel that's exactly one should not do. Imagine a scenario where you've built a product or a service and then you spend heavily on marketing. Now, what marketing does is literally create awareness and demand for your product or a service, but you're unable to fulfill that demand because your distribution is not yet set up, because you spent heavily on creating that demand but not spending enough resources, time and energy to build distribution around it. The consumer will come in, ask for it, will not get it, get disappointed and move on. Now, in order to get that consumer to make him confident or make him feel that we are literally a brand, you'll have to put in at least twice the amount of energy. First, they won't give a chance. They won't give you a chance. They'll write you off immediately. If they give you a chance, you'll have to spend twice the energy to get them to believe that you're a brand. That's exactly what we did not want. We wanted to sort of make sure that we have the distribution right. First, let them organically taste it. Let the product be on every shelf. ताकि जब भी whenever we get to do marketing means branding or advertisement, people should be able to find it easily. But within the blink of an eye. So somebody thinks of Lahori Zeera should be somewhere around.
Correct.
So that was the thought process. That's why we were late at it. Also because we had as you said, we had a very small budget, or we did not have resources. Whatever resources we had given, because each year the demand was far more than the supply. So we just kept plowing back all the money to building capacities. So we never spent on marketing. मैं already demand fulfill नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ. There are folks, distributors and consumer who are disappointed that I'm not able to fulfill this demand. For a lot of people who would say it's a good problem to have. But I feel if it's extended far too much, it gets annoying and irritating. So therefore, it is a risky position to be in. It feels good because you get a lot of attention, but it's risky. Because beyond a point, people will get irritated. So therefore, we were very focused on trying to build capacities as fast as possible. And that was a thought process as to why we did not do marketing in the initial days. Given the fact that there is enough scale, now it is important to build that awareness. So I feel that there are two set of people out there in the market. One, who are consumers of Lahori products. Those guys love the brand because of the product.
Correct.
Because of the offering that we have. And the other folks who've not tried the product. Now, the name itself is not descriptive enough to say this is a beverage or this is a masala or what is it. So therefore, it is important to build that awareness around that top of the mind memory, recall, where they can say, yaar, ek beverage hai, maine suna hai, maine dekha hai kahin. So they know exactly what it is. So then over a period of time, the more I sort of keep knocking their heads, they will come and try that product and then sort of get converted.
I love that. No, I think very simple again. I think बहुत ही अच्छा product बनाओ, keep it in front of customers, create some recall, they'll try it and they'll keep coming back to you. I think that's what I'll take back, instead of cutting corners on the product and then trying to spend so much on marketing. If you build such a great product, एक बार लोगों ने try कर लिया ना, तो आएंगे लोग.
So trust me, marketing के ना, there are a lot of forms and ways and manners. At the end of the day, you can go to the thing that people do first, which is get a face. You can get a face at any point in time. Correct. But I genuinely feel, or the three of us, the three brothers, the three of us are of the opinion that today the consumer has changed quite a bit. It's not the same consumer.
Correct.
The consumers now are unable to connect with this larger than life old age actors or celebs. We obviously love them. I'm a fan of these guys, Salman Khan and all the big folks in old faces.
They're great. But
it's all larger than life. It's too much.
Yeah.
The consumer, we feel, is not able to connect over there. They're just jumping mountains. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense for us. The new age guys, the millennials and the Gen Z, in my opinion, connect with brands that have no faces. They are more interested to watch and hear that. There has to be a good story. The story should be the hero. And it has to be relatable. Relatability is so underrated, I feel. If you're able to have a conversation which is relatable, relevant, people will actually care to listen. Otherwise, folks are just going to ignore because there's so much being thrown at you. You don't even realize, subconsciously you're just ignoring everything.
Yeah, I agree. And the story here, I mean, it gets you back to India, it gets you back to your roots. It's something that we've all heard at home, but we've now got a chance to try at a retail front or, a kirana ki dukaan. And that's where I think you change the game. No, I love it. I think ये बहुत सारे structural decisions है जो लग रहा है कि you got really right and now you're scaling on top of it. you mentioned in a lot of ways about the distributor, but that also, a lot of founders are not used to, like, let's say, capturing, because new age brands which are in the kirani ki dukaan are very far and few, right? Are there any other learnings that maybe you missed or can share? Ki this is how do you grow like a wholesaler network? This is how you get a sale on street, etc. How do you get it done from the distribution lens? Because that's also, I think, your marketing expense, right? In a way.
Correct. So honestly, a lot. So things have changed. The distribution strategy, the distribution game has changed substantially from back in the day. Earlier, the TAM, digital TAM, was so small. You couldn't really afford to think of building a brand with an online market
Only.
right? Today, it's a very different marketplace. It's a very different game now. But again, I feel, as far as consumer goods are concerned, FMCG, fast moving consumer goods, I still feel that even for the large conglomerates, about 70 to 80% of the sales is coming from general trade.
Yeah.
The kirana game in India is extremely strong.
Yeah.
Definitely, we've read multiple articles where the quick commerce is changing the scenario.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I am with you on that. It is changing the scenario, but the honest truth is, quick commerce is only viable, in my opinion, in tier 1 cities where there's high density of population. Where there's low density of population, people still relish the fact that they go with their kids to a marketplace. Even in tier 1 cities, that thought process is coming. I've spoken to a lot of people now. They genuinely miss going to the market and buying things.
Yeah.
That simple phenomena of going to the market, going to a small supermarket and buying stuff, walking in an aisle, exploring new products.
Yeah.
Just being on the phone is becoming a lot now.
Yeah.
It's convenient, yes, and it is here to stay. I am not saying, but they'll coexist. Kirana shops, that GT is going to diminish, but not to the extent that you can imagine. It is going to always stay.
Absolutely.
And therefore, it is important that general trade is given its due respect. We've given, for us, we feel our incumbents, the large MNCs, till date, they sell 80% of their market. The 80% of the contribution comes from general trade. So therefore, we've always focused on that. So another thing that is unique is that all products who are doing well in GT will eventually do well in quick commerce and modern trade.
Yeah.
But all products that are doing well in quick commerce and modern trade need not definitely do well in GT.
Correct.
So therefore, it has to have a GT first approach when it comes to fast moving consumer goods. That's what we did. We sort of completely focused our energies, even today, on the general trade. Just make sure that there is enough margin. As I said, 3 things: margin and distribution.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that you replenish the distributor at the time when they want it.
Yeah.
And at the earliest hour as possible, because that is when they're flush with cash. By the afternoon, if you reach there, he doesn't have money to sort of buy it, and then he doesn't feel that he'll be able to sell it by the end of the day.
Yeah.
So जिसने एक पेटी लेनी थी वो आधी लेगा, जिसने 2 लेनी थी वो 1 लेगा. So it changes the game. So you have to replenish the stock at the right hour, and also make sure that there is enough margin for the distribution supply chain, so to sort of indulge in your product. Once you're able to establish yourself, once you're able to build a brand around your product, that's when you can start dictating terms. But to begin with, you have to sort of make sure that they get better margins than the incumbents. I think that's the whole and soul of it.
Correct. That's the math behind it. What are other incentives? I remember talking to you once and you were like, हम इन्हें बाहर लेके जा रहे हैं. What are some other ground level learnings? क्योंकि ये भी आपने शायद पहली बार ही किया है, like life में. You've not done this before. And I mean, we don't get to talk to distributors day in, day out. So what can you tell us about that world that was new for you? कि मतलब ये तो करना ही पड़ेगा. क्योंकि I'm sure now new age players further, like I mean, we'll hear you and somebody will in the audience will, start their own brand and they'll go and give more margin to the distributor.
I hope they do.
Yeah, but they'll still stay loyal to you. तो आपने ऐसे क्या establish किया? I'd love to know further.
So basically, it's not a general practice. Not everybody does that. A lot of folks give out gifts. There's Diwali greetings, there are gifts. There are multiple things that one does for distributor, because at the end of the day, your trade is dependent on them. They are technically your consumers. And then they make sure that your products are being sold at the right places, the right shelves. So technically, we are interdependent. They're dependent on our products. We're dependent on them. Therefore, they deserve the respect and love that we can sort of give them. So we do multiple activities, like for example meeting them at least twice a year, trying understanding, go to them, go to their marketplaces, understanding what it is that they're doing, what it is they're trying to do, what is lacking in us, how can we improve. That's one. And secondly, we do these, organize these small trips, and we give these targets to our distributors, and for folks who are able to meet them, that it has to be incentivized, right?
Correct.
So there always has to be a carrot for all of us. Unless there is no carrot, then you won't be motivated to sort of get up and do stuff.
Yeah.
And therefore we sort of organize these trips. This is more of a place where we're trying to really build a bond. Over there, it's all about just enjoying for the next 2-3 days, just spending time together, building a bond around us. Because what is happening is they're all busy in their respective time and age. So by giving them a gift, you don't actually spend time. Everybody does give them a gift.
Okay, but this
By
is different.
taking them out for 2-3 days, no, they just cut off from the world. They're just having a good time and creating that camaraderie between themselves, the employees, our sales employees, and us. That is the only time where we're able to establish a genuine connect. And that's what we try to do. We try to create that genuine bond between us and understand them beyond the professional level.
That's lovely. No, awesome. I think this has covered a lot of ground. Let's come to the capital side, right? You started Bootstrap, but then you got an investor a couple of years back. And again, there was this news a couple of months back that you're getting somebody more and large numbers of capital, right? How have you looked at how new age founders can also bootstrap versus decide to fundraise? How has it been in your journey?
So it's not just capital. I want to sort of take this opportunity and speak to folks out there. Number one, there is nothing like a bootstrap company. I mean, it is so underrated. If somebody can sort of grow without taking money, somebody else's money, there is nothing like it. The reason why we sort of raised money, because we knew this would accelerate our growth. And I think for most part, this is the logical reason for anybody to raise funds. Whether you raise funds from a bank, so which is debt, or whether you raise funds from a capital market or a private equity investor, either ways, you need to understand, as soon as you raise money, there is a fiduciary responsibility for you to sort of return that. That thought process, if you don't have, no, then it's the wrong game that you're getting into. Because if you feel you've raised private equity, अब तो पैसा वापस देना नहीं है, या capital market, ऐसा नहीं है. जिससे भी पैसा लिए ना, eventually you have to give them the option to exit. If you do not, you will never be able to raise again. You know, the karma is always with you. It'll come back.
Absolutely.
So first is that. Second of all, I think people always talk about private equity players, and specifically debt and capital market are very different areas to sort of raise funds from. Their impact I have no idea about, because I've not done either. Neither capital market, not debt. But what I've sort of realized after taking my funds from private equity, and this is not spoken enough, I feel, it not only gives you the capital, but it also gives you a lot of structure. At least for us, it has given us a lot of structure. For founders, the primary focus is to produce as much and then sell as much. Everything around it is ignored, especially the backend systems. The structure, we never focus on that. We never focus on building the right structure, building the right backend. The focus is always कि बस बनाते रहो, बेचते रहो. Because you want to scale as fast as possible without realizing how important it is to scale the right way. Imagine you've scaled your business to a certain extent, but the backend engine doesn't have the legs to go take it any further, and all of a sudden you fall flat on your face. And that's what happens with most businesses. The backend is just ignored. And for us, luckily, we found very mature, very sorted investors. They helped us bring a lot of structure into our system, where I feel I'm confident today that we can build it for the long term. Had they not come into place, had they not made us realize, and they put it in the SHA, and then you're supposed to do it. You can't find an easy way out. And because of all of that, it just really helped us build it the right manner. But yes, we raised in 2022. We raised $25 million
from
World Invest, which is a Belgian-based investor. Lovely. And ever since, it really just catapulted our growth journey from that point in time.
I love that. Does it also help with talent? New age talent?
So honestly, at the end of the day, it's the entrepreneur, it's the founder. You have to be selling yourself
You attract talent.
day in, day out.
Yeah.
It helps definitely when
क्योंकि
somebody
PR हो
knows,
जाती है.
but then their expectation also goes bad. I mean, people think now they've raised money, they'll pay higher. So they also come. But there are pros and cons to it. When you raise funds, a lot of people just want to approach you because now they know that you have money to spend. So they sort of come and approach you with that mindset.
Yeah.
And that's a common thing, especially when you sort of put it out there on LinkedIn, which generally happens.
Correct.
And then a lot of people are going to approach you just trying to take that money away from you.
Yeah.
And it's not the best place to be in. But having said that, if there's a good investor, that it definitely helps some of the employees from large, more sorted incumbent companies to come and join you, because now they know that there is proof of concept.
Correct.
There is some validation of what we're trying to build. And beyond that, I think it's the entrepreneur. If we are able to convince them, to tell them that their contribution will be meaningful in the entire process, then people will join.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, there are two things that people, specifically employees, colleagues, want. One is money, monetary, and they're obviously getting decent and they can get better from anywhere else. Second is the respect and that validation ki your contribution is going to be significant in the growth story of this brand.
Yeah.
And if they're able to buy into that,
yeah,
I think
we all want to do meaningful work, and if they can come to some place and do it. And I'm also guessing creating a category, right? Like, I mean, in terms of talent, आप चंडीगढ़ से भी बना रहे हो. Not too many startups there. I'm guessing talent also is not very easily available. And initially तो proof of concept भी नहीं था ज़्यादा. What are the further, like, first 50 लोग कैसे आए थे? Like, उनको कैसे convince किया आपने?
I think the first 50 log were relatively easy to get on board because
Connections.
बहुत talented नहीं थे. The basic things, everything was being done by the three brothers. We were hands-on. मतलब PN से लेकर managing director तक सब खुद ही थे. So we were very hands-on from that as thought process. Even today, we feel we're extremely hands-on. A lot of the entire team is extremely young, and it always has been. Somehow we've only attracted a lot of younger folks into the game because of the energy that we carry ourselves, and therefore we attract that kind of people. So the entire team has since day one been very young. A lot of freshers, young people came into being. We went to the market with them, we sit with them, we chill with them, we do everything. मतलब आज भी to most folks, the three of us address as sir. मतलब नहीं sir ऐसे नहीं ऐसे करते हैं, ऐसे नहीं ऐसे करते हैं. We call our colleagues, our employees as sir, and therefore that respect really helps connect. And they also sort of then reciprocate in that manner. They go above and beyond normal circumstances to help support build the brand.
Were you ever tempted to go outside Chandigarh ki better talent मिल जाएगा?
Never. Because honestly, talent has, now that we've scaled up and now we feel that it is important for experience to come in. But if you pay the right money, people and if you have the right story to tell, also the fact that this helps us as a consumer first brand. It's in the face, so people sort of appreciate कि हाँ Lahori के लिए काम करना, yes, fine, correct. I'm ready. If it was a B2B business, I think then it would have been slightly more difficult because as a consumer first brand, people are attracted to it. Yeah. People sort of are ready to sort of take that plunge. So I think that has helped. And secondly, the ecosystem over there is also developing. Yeah. Having said that, you can't sort of compete with the likes of Delhi, Bombay, Hyderabad, Bangalore. These places are top tier, but so is the cost and so is the competition. Correct. So we feel we are just fine for now building out of Chandigarh.
Pros and cons.
Yeah, it has its pros and cons. So it's a good place to be. And also we feel that's also a comfort space. We've been born and brought up there. Yeah, so we have
there's a pride to it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you're championing the ecosystem. Like I was also, like when I knew about the company, I didn't realize it's based in Chandigarh when I first heard about it. So no, it's lovely what, companies like yours are doing. But amazing. I think so many of these frameworks, मुझे लग रहा है आप इतने simply समझा रहे हो, which is very, very interesting.
But very simple. पता है, that's we've spoken enough times amongst the three of us, and we only spoke about it once we were started getting questioned by folks who started recognizing that we've done some decent job, and that's when we sort of realized कि हम तीनों को यही समझ आता है कि just stick to the basics. जो आता है वो करो. And that's the first conversation I had with you abhi कि there is no point trying to be smart or overthinking things. And that's where I feel a lot of founders go wrong. They overthink, they try and go the extra mile. Sometimes you don't need to.
Yeah.
Maybe on most occasions I feel a lot of people stress कि बहुत hard work करना जरूरी है, बहुत, you know, the difficult path is always the right path. No. If you have to go from point A to B, you analyze, understand, and maybe this is the right path. Just go straight.
Yeah.
And it's I feel it's underrated. A lot of people put a lot of stress कि बहुत hard work करना पड़ता है, बहुत नहीं, बस जो आता है वो करो, and just stick to your principles. Have a few guiding principles and stick to them and just follow that path.
Yeah. No, that's very powerful to mention. I just think कि not enough people have been able to do what Lahori Zeera has. So it feels like कोई secret formula होगा, right? But some of these frameworks are very well explained. Like just the funding accelerating growth के लिए, just one line also is great, right? Like I don't think it's very easily communicated. So I love that. What's changed for you, Saurabh? Did you imagine will it be this successful in 2016?
Not at all. When we started, because I told you the thesis from the very beginning was to build a brand. But that brand building was to the extent of, say, the state. And then the idea evolved as in when we sort of realized that people are actually liking the product. There is good acceptance. We weren't thinking. Uske baad we were just doing. We were acting, we were doing, we were running, we were scaling. At some point in time, we thought, Punjab ka brand nahi, let's build a North India ka brand. फिर भी हम भागते रहे, करते रहे. We just kept growing. So क्या होता है? Once you're hustling and you don't really have a large team, there's no leadership team, you're doing stuff yourself. You don't even realize when the day is over and you just go through the day. Life is happening to you so fast. And you stop thinking कि अब मैं कहाँ जा रहा हूँ. You're just taking one step at a time, not realizing the direction that you're going towards. And now we have a team in place. There's a senior leadership team. Let's just say if you lock the three of us in a room, Lahori Zeera is going to survive and it's going to sell and it's going to do fine. Maybe not have a purpose and a direction because that's what we bring into the game, but we'll be just fine. So now we sit back and think and see what is it? What is it that we're trying to do? What is it we're trying to build? Now we sort of feel that we've been blessed with a platform. Now there is a platform, there is proof of concept. Now it's a scale problem. It's a business problem. Abhi, it's not a question whether ye chalega nahi chalega. It's a question of how much can we do ourselves? When is there a point where we feel ki our capabilities are at question? It's a very different journey from a 0 to 1, very different journey from 1 to 100, and 100 and above is a very different journey. We're obviously working and adapting and learning ourselves. We have no experience about it, right? It's new for us. We're just moving with a torch. We have some sense of what direction we're going to, but we've no clue what is going to come in our way, right? During the journey. So we're just evolving ourselves. At some point in time, maybe it's the case, maybe it's not the case, where we feel our skill set is not good enough to match the requirement of the scale that we're at. Maybe at that point in time, a leadership team will have to come in who will then sort of take it forward. Maybe that happens, but we're open to that. That thought process, we're very accepting of it because we have a different sort of energy. We like to hustle, but maybe that's not the kind of energy one wants at a certain scale. So it's just discovery. It's just new for us. We're just learning and adapting and just taking calls. But now we sit back and think we've been gifted this opportunity where a platform is there. Now, how the onus is on us. How much can we scale? How fast can we scale? And how much can we build of it?
Yeah. No, I love that.
There is no limit to it, for sure. It's a very large market. We are a very, very small, tiny player of it. Building a 4,000, 5,000, 10,000 crore brand should not be a challenge. The opportunity is there.
Yeah,
it is you to whether we can do it or not. It's an execution play.
No, I love that. I think उसमें भी underlying learning तो ये है कि initial years में तो अपना काम इतना अच्छा करो कि the work will speak for itself and it'll take you far.
Yeah. I think that's the only formula. Everything else
don't
is just
get ahead
words.
of yourself.
It's just noise. Focus on what you're supposed to do and just do that simply. Make it as simple as possible. मेरे father कहते हैं a good businessman is not the person जो सबसे ज़्यादा challenges solve करता है. A good businessman is the person जो सबसे ज़्यादा challenges avoid कर लेता है. So don't take things head on. Just try and take a different route.
Yeah, no, I love that. Personally, have you, now that there's success evidently, has life changed personally? Are you different? I know you're not because I've interacted with you, but how do you think, because no, there was nothing when you started and there's so much now, there's something to lose also. How do you look at life personally? How has that changed for you?
Yeah, come to think of it, a lot has changed. Honestly, we've not had a liquidity event since the very beginning. So in terms of money or in terms of wealth, not life hasn't changed at all. It's the same. But in terms of respect and love, I think a lot has changed. People around us are very, very, very sweet and very. I think they recognize what we've done, and they're so sweet and they're very. I think there's a lot of gratitude that we feel. Ki the consumer today is a very different person versus the consumer back in the day. Back in the day, people were very stubborn, they were very rigid, it was difficult to cross break that barrier. Had we built it say 20 years back, maybe we wouldn't have been accepted.
Yeah.
But given the fact that the consumer today, and credit to them, they're so open to trying new things, going for a different experience, and only because of that attitude are is this opportunity window of opportunity has been given to folks like us who've tried to come up with a product and enter that market and try give them a new product. It's only because of their acceptance have we been able to establish ourselves. So I'm very thankful to the consumers today. I think that has made a large difference. And folks who are trying to build, or people who are listening who want to build out, this is the window of opportunity. The next 10 years, the reason why everybody on the planet is saying India ka time hai is because of you guys. Because we are a young population. We have, is for the first time ever since our independence, that this confluence of capital, this confluence of infrastructure, this confluence of policy making, everything has come together for the first time. And then there's now human resources also sort of started to stay back and want to build over here.
Absolutely.
So it's for the first time everything's come together for India, and therefore that's the reason why I feel that the Indian consumer story is going to be next level in the next 10 years, and you guys need to sort of make use of it. We need to have a lot of brands coming from India.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for mentioning that. I mean, when we hear it from founders, it just reinstores the belief further, and know your humility and kindness. I mean, if some people get to interact with you in person, they love the product even more just because of how amazing you are as a personality. Since we're on the India story, in beverages in general, right? Again, you're an anomaly because बहुत सारी beverages company नहीं बनी है. And fortunately or unfortunately, it feels like when we taste something, right, we want to build it, but it's also so difficult. Everything is challenging, right? So do you have an opinion on what in beverages, now that you've cracked it, like apart from all the things that we've discussed, great product, great distribution, incentivize करो, और क्या points of failure होते हैं जो avoid करने चाहिए? How do you look at that?
So I feel I want to ask you a question. Just think about it. What was the last innovative carbonated product that you had in India? So
Yeah,
if you
right.
think, if you go to the aisles of a supermarket anywhere outside India, even some place like a Dubai, Philippines, Indonesia, I'm not even talking about the US and all those economies. Those aisles are filled with innovative products. Filled, matlab, this large variety.
Correct.
And in India, there's
खत्म हो
no
जाता है.
variety.
Correct.
A large reason for that is the tax behind it. 40% GST is very heavy. I mean, 28% is the slab, and then 12% says to go with it. It just becomes extremely difficult to innovate. There's no incentive. So actually, a very touchy topic, I think, for the beverage folks in India is that a lot of countries outside India are incentivized, or their tax policy is based on the amount of sugar a product has.
Okay.
And it's everywhere outside India. But in India, the reason why it's taxed so heavily is because it gives them a lot of revenue. One. Secondly, what they're saying is that this is under the sin category alongside the tobacco and tobacco products and luxury cars. They're the only four things that are in the sin category. If it's sugar, then why don't incentivize products
Lack of sugar.
which has less sugar or lower sugar, or great taxation in the proportion of sugar that the product has? But because of this, there is zero innovation in the category. And that's what we sort of built on. the fact that there is no innovation, there's no variety, and the aisles are still filled with the same product over and over. And people in India, honestly, without them realizing it, subconsciously they were craving for it, they were waiting for it. We just didn't realize क्या है कि unless you sit in a Mercedes, you feel your Honda is just fine. So because we travel and we see there's so much variety, that's when you realize कि यार इंडिया में ऑप्शन ही नहीं है.
Correct.
Why not? And therefore, I think that's where the thought process is. But as far as points where people can fail or falter, I think the competition is extremely tough. They eat you out, they rub you out. And the second biggest challenge is the rip-offs, as you said. I think the intellectual property law in India, anything, forget beverages, anything consumer goods, as soon as it establishes a certain proof of concept, it starts to do well. The first thing that happens is rip-offs start to come. The problem with rip-offs is not that they're selling. The problem with rip-offs is that they're spoiling the consumer experience. They don't have the quality. They don't have the consistency. Whatever little you've built organically just goes away for a toss. So imagine you're picking up a 10 rupee product. आप कितना ध्यान दोगे उसको खरीदने के लिए? It's a 10 rupee product. It's not like buying a diamond कि वो ऐसे ऐसे करके देखेगा लेबल सही है कि नहीं है and everything.
Correct.
They don't care. मतलब वो उसने देखा कलर है सही है, टेस्ट क्या, what the hell, ये तो weird हो गया टेस्ट.
Correct.
The brand ही नहीं है, तो देसी है, just throw it. And then I've lost.
Yeah.
So whatever good work as brands we try and do in the consumer goods space, because the intellectual property law in India is not there, it really becomes a bottleneck beyond a point. You do all the hard work and then you lose your entire good work to this. This just becomes sad.
Yeah.
So that infrastructure piece is missing.
Yeah. No, I think, but with successes like yours, I think more people will recognize कि ये सारे challenges हैं. Hopefully, policymakers will also act on it. And maybe since you figured it out, some others will also. But thanks so much for sharing, because we also don't want कि everything is rosy, right? Yeah. The idea is to, it's so many tough challenges.
There are small nuances to everything that we do, every decision that we make, which makes it very challenging, very difficult. The amount of compliancing, we're in the right direction. Don't get me wrong over here. The ease of doing business 10 years back versus now, when we started 7 years back versus now, we're in the right direction. But we're very long way from where we should have been. The kind of capital we're attracting, the kind of human resource we're attracting, the kind of energy that India has, the policymakers need to really level up, step up, and make sure that the framework is there for startups to really blossom, grow. They are burdened by this heavy compliancing. It just makes things tough.
Yeah, and that's super important to mention. One of the other things that, I was checking with the audience ki kya interesting hai. Everybody today mostly wants to build for that, top 20 million Indians, right? It's just a notion that person can pay, mass premium is the buzzword. Everybody wants to build for that audience. You, of course, are building for everyone. Like I have it, somebody who's working in a factory has it, somebody who's in the house has it, like everybody has it, right? How do you look at this customer base? And it also feels like that is the market where the money is, right? Like, I mean, long tail of audience तो वही है. हमें ये पता है theoretically, but बनाना बहुत difficult है. Do you have any insights on mass India, why we should build for that audience?
So actually, thesis number 2 was always that, कि इसको कहाँ price करना. Who's our TG? Core TG कौन है, right? The honest truth is, everything that we've heard up until today, or until 2017 when we started, was that anybody can build so a Maruti will never be able to sell beyond a 15-20 lakh rupees. Correct. Because it's built for the masses. And a Mercedes can any day come into this. But we've always worked on the antithesis. We feel that is not true. If a Maruti wants to sell higher, then they'll launch an Nexa. And they build for the... So if you have so right now what we need to understand and appreciate is within an audience of 145 crore, which is the population of the country, we figured out only a very small subset actually file an income tax return, which is about 12-15 crore people. Out of that 12-15 crore people, half of them file a zero income tax return, right? So those people believe, or founders believe, that they are the people that one should chase because they have a high disposable income. Given the fact this is an indulgence, technically we should be chasing them. But the problem is, those guys have very little loyalty. They want new experiences
All
every
the
day
time.
in life. They will not stick to one thing. They are very conscious of what they consume. And the larger subsets, which is actually the superset, the 120 crore people who are not, who are just in their daily routines in life, what they actually look for is not new experience. They want to identify what is value for money. They want to stick to it. They just want confidence कि मुझे हर बारी वो मैं 10 रुपए डालूंगा ना तो मुझे वो वैल्यू डिराइव होगी. They want to get into a routine because they don't have time. They are just so busy living life. For them, we wanted to solve for them. We wanted to build this brand for them, focusing on them. We knew we could have catered to this at any given point in time, but for them, had we started with that subset, which is the 15-20 crore population, which is South Bombay, South Delhi, तो नीचे जाना बहुत डिफिकल्ट था. बिकॉज देन इफ यू लॉन्च अ प्रीमियम प्रोडक्ट एंड देन यू मेक इट मासी, देन द एस्पिरेशन फ्रॉम इट गोज अवे. फोक्स थिंक कि यार ये तो सबके लिए हो गया. इट्स लाइक मर्सिडीज अब सब खरीदने लग जाए तो फिर देन इट लूजेस इट्स चार्म.
Correct.
But if a Maruti sort of levels up, builds that quality and launches a Nexa, people who are buying Mercedes are also buying Nexa. This is the reality.
Wow.
So we wanted to build for the masses and then premiumize it over a period of time. I think this is a natural journey for a consumer brand. First, you find the right product. Then you grow by expanding your portfolio. Then you grow by expanding your distribution, like going wide. First deep, then wide, expanding your portfolio. Then the next step is to have more use cases, like a Colgate. पहले बोलते थे सुबह एक बार ही ब्रश करना जरूरी, अब कह रहे हैं रात को भी यूज करना, right? So use case बढ़ाओ. And then is to premiumize it. This is a natural journey for a consumer brand. So I think we've just started. We're at level 1 of our journey. अभी तो product portfolio में भी तो deep ही जा रहे हैं, and wide also भी जाना बनता है, and then product portfolio, and there's a lot of steps before that. So I think we're just on that track, on that journey, and this theory is just my own made. There is
no, but it's such a great theory. No, but I keep saying, right, like I think you have a knack to explain things really well, which is gifted, and that is so well explained. The audience demographic, how to cater to which one, figuring out a mental model, and then also looking at the brand journey. I think it's just phenomenal. Wow, we've discussed so many things. I love it. I think towards the end, I just want to explore like a couple of final questions about your persona. I'd love to understand ki in this journey, right? I think there are these pivotal moments, and then there's stories, right? Like maybe factory opening, maybe first like lakh, matlab jab 10 lakh bottles unit hit kiye. What are some interesting stories where you felt that you are on the right trajectory, where your faith in yourself, the brand as co-founders got reinstored?
I think every step of the way, every time we added a line is when we sort of sat back, thought, मतलब time भी नहीं लगा ऐसा, literally ऐसा नहीं था कि it's just during the season. So technically this business has seasonality to it, especially given the fact that we started from the north, which has the strongest season in terms of extreme temperatures in winters. So therefore there is a large element of seasonality. So during the off season is when we sort of realized, after July, August, September, post Diwali, basically you get time when you're in a lean phase to sort of really breathe, think what has happened, what we did well, what did not do, what is it that we did not do well, where can we improve and stuff. That is when we would sit back and think कि boss क्या हो रहा है, हमारे साथ हुआ क्या? Because during that time though it's just happening, everything is happening, your day passes, you don't even realize. Only post Diwali you sit back and think what happened, and then that is when you analyze, and then you act upon it कि boss, people are loving the product. So we launch in a certain city, there are times when we've not been able to grow past that city only. So imagine we launched in Punjab, we got so much love from Ludhiana, Jalandhar, Patiala, this belt, कि वो अमृतसर बठिंडा को जाते जाते 2 साल लग गए हमारे. 2 साल हम गए ही नहीं. Because as I said, we wanted to build a brand. I didn't want to create a situation where I'm present today, tomorrow I'm not there. Consistency is what is key towards building a brand. हर चीज में quality, communication, distribution, availability, taste. Consistency is what builds brands over a period of time. And that's where that's what we didn't realize it at that point in time. हम बस कर रहे थे because we thought this is the right thing to do. If we were consumers, we would want it to have a brand which works like this. So we were just doing it, not realizing कि this would actually play well over a period of time. So that is what happened. We were very consistently available in whatever markets we opened. We did not jump markets, even though we had inquiries from across. Today we have inquiries from across the globe. While entering, I just got a message from a lawyer friend of mine. He says somebody in the US wants, who's my relative, he's into distribution and they want. I said, listen, the entire world is focusing on India. Why should I be in a hurry to rush out? I'm in no rush. I'm building it for the long term. I'm in it for the next 5-10 years. I'm going to build it really well. So I think that was but at each point in time, every time we went into lean period, that is when it hit us, when we realized कि कुछ तो सही कर रहे हैं. We're getting the love. Every market that we enter, we just kept penetrating. We were able to penetrate that market, and it's a rare phenomenon. Generally, growth comes from opening more markets.
Yeah.
For us, it wasn't there. People were loving and wanting more of our product, and therefore we just knew कि हम सही चल रहे हैं. कहाँ जा रहे हैं, क्या इसका ceiling है, we didn't know, and we didn't even stop to think.
Correct. I love that. Again, the simplicity really, really stands out. आपके product में, I think again a conversation will be incomplete. A lot of the new age trend is health, right? And then sugar. Conversation on sugar is very, very keen. But is that the real India as well? Like, I think sugar is a great energy source, right? And that's how it's played out through generations. But this also feels like a very privileged trend. Does it play out in the market? Do you see are customers saying that we want a healthy alternative? Because while it is healthy, I know that you mentioned in the past as well, there are very nice ingredients. It's not completely sugar. Sugar content bhi kam hai. What is your thought on health and then drinks?
First, sugar content kam nahi hai. Is this similar to any other soft drink? Number two, we've never ever communicated, nowhere in our packaging, nowhere, anywhere you would see that we've called ourselves or claimed anything to be healthy.
Correct.
In principle, the ingredients that we use are healthy. But the honest truth is that we are so fascinated by the Western culture because that conversation is so, I think, deep over there that sugar has become the it word. It's like the hate word. Everybody's so against sugar and I don't understand why. Everybody's so into millets. I don't understand why. Basic. So like Two Brothers is a beautiful brand that the two brothers are building. They talk a lot about it. Ki kya problem kya hai wheat ke andar? This is something that this is so basic and core to us. What is wrong with the world? Because now we need to understand and appreciate. These Western countries have a certain weather condition, have a certain climatic conditions and certain, the environmental conditions are very different.
Correct.
Ours is a very coastal country where temperatures are generally high. We're close to the equator in comparison to any of these Western countries. Now, what happens is because of these climatic conditions, environmental conditions, there is certain requirement for the body, right? So, sugar is not an enemy. Anything in excess becomes an enemy. So, if you're somebody who's taking on an entire 2 liter of a certain drink, then that's excessive. But idea is for that Zomato delivery guy who's in the heat trying to do his job. You know how difficult it is for that cab driver who's driving 12 hours, doing a 12-hour shift because he has to make money. You know how important sugar is for that person.
Yeah.
You wouldn't appreciate if you're sitting in an AC room just playing a video game and calling ki mujhe to sugar nahi chahiye. It's a very different game. That audience is very small.
Correct.
The large superset of India requires the basic energy.
जो शुगर से आती है,
जो carbs हैं वो चाहिए to sort of operate. And all we are saying is in anything in excess, and I've said this on multiple occasions, if you can have a ghar ka nimboo pani, there's nothing like it. Nothing beats that. But because of convenience, because of time, the next best alternative is your Lahori Zeera.
Love it. I love how honest, direct, and clear that is. And also, I think, some of these things are just like very privileged. Like we had that conversation, but consumption is very.
We're also fascinated.
Yeah.
So that dialogue, that communication, that conversation is more coming from the fascination. From the fascination. Because of the media, because of Instagram, social media, and also a lot of movies and OTT. You see these series where they're talking such language and you sort of connect with it. But honestly, we
On
don't
ground
realize
reality.
कि सच क्या है, requirement क्या है, body की requirement है यार. What is wrong with it?
Correct. No, that's lovely. I think for the second last question, Saurabh, I'd love to understand from you that you built this scale for the first time in your life. What are things about you that you have learned that you didn't know, skills that you have explored, just generally new things that you have done well that you didn't know you could already? And what has been that surprise factor about yourself?
I think for all three of us, I'd say this for all three of us, the fact that we're able to have limelight on us and still be able to operate. We didn't know this about us. We weren't all three of us weren't the sort of kids back in the day in schools who were extremely bright or sharp. We were just street smart kids who would just get by, got decent marks in school, just loved playing sports. All three of us are like that. We love food. All three, wherever we go. So हम जाते हैं डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन
Punjabi.
के हिसाब से हैं, वहाँ पे मार्केट में टाइम स्पेंड करते हैं, बट एट द एंड सबसे पहले गूगल पे ढूंढते हैं बेस्ट थिंग्स टू ईट, चाहे स्ट्रीट फूड हो चाहे कुछ भी हो. सो वी आर फूडीज एट हार्ट. I think we didn't realize or we never knew this about ourselves, that when the spotlight will be on us, we'll be able to react. Sometimes it's natural for somebody to freeze or not be able to sort of take that limelight in the right way. So I think that the fact that we're eternal salesmen, we're always selling, we didn't realize this until now, when we realize कि अब तो it's investors,
सबको बेच लिया.
employees,
सबको बेच रहे हो
basically we're
हमेशा.
trying to get people on board,
Yeah.
trying to tell them that this is so important and this is so relevant, and we're building it with the right cause, with the right purpose, and we're building it for something big. It's not something of a manufacturing business. It's a brand that we're trying to build. So being a salesman is something that I never knew that I had it in me. So I think these are the few things. And also subconsciously attracting the right energy, the right people. It is a true blessing to have the right co-founders. Trust me, I've spoken to a few folks who are single founders. Just takes a toll. At times it becomes extremely lonely, becomes extremely difficult. You want to let go and take a break, and you're not able to do that because क्या leadership team वगैरह सब धीरे धीरे आती है स्केल के साथ. Initially it's all you.
Yeah.
It becomes very difficult. The three of us complement each other so well that it's just life become easy. It's हम खेलते इकट्ठे हैं, सोते इकट्ठे, खाते पीते सब कुछ इकट्ठे हैं. So it's just,
And it's family,
yeah,
literally.
it's family literally.
Yeah.
And then to find the right set of leadership team who sort of go with the flow, have the same sort of energy, having the right set of people around you, I can't tell you how important that is. To find the right bus and then to find the right people to be sitting in the right positions is what really builds a strong team and eventually a strong brand.
And that's lovely to hear. I think, I think the humility is also so nice. I love it. Genuinely, I think the first time we spoke also, I remember you mentioning that you had heard my podcast and I was so delighted.
I've seen multiple of those. Yeah.
I love that. No, thank you so much. And thanks for being so honest, kind, humble. I think it just goes a long way in establishing ki, all of us can build large companies.
Exactly.
And that's
if I can do it, no, I promise you, if the three of us can do it, anybody out there can do it. I promise you, hum sabse basic. So we're the sort of folks who would just do rather than talk. I think that's what is needed. Bas.
Absolutely.
Karo. Just half the people just keep thinking and they don't go take the next step. That move is important.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Before the last question, I'd love to understand that if we remove Lahori Zeera from your life for a second, right? What can you tell us about Saurabh? Who is Saurabh then?
Given the fact that we've spent so much time and so much energy in this, I think my identity, I relate with Lahori Zeera. This is who I am. But other than that, I don't know. I'm just a free-spirited, love sports, love traveling. That's the person I am. But since the last 7 years, I've literally breathed, slept. I've had dreams. I've literally, and I'm not exaggerating. And my wife can vouch for it. I'm sleeping and having it. I have slept with a problem in my mind. In my dreams, I solved that problem. कि यार ये एक probable solution है. I got up, wrote that message, and then I slept कि मैं सुबह उठ के भूल ना जाऊं. And this is what happens. This is how involved in the process, and we love it. We love to be in that energy of building it. इतना मजा आता है ना. मतलब I can't wait to get to the office because we've built the office also like that. It is so free spirited, so open, and that energy is there that you want to spend your time over there. We just love being in that space, and that's who we've become now. I don't know, at some point in time when we probably realize, or when it happens, or if it happens, कि we are not capable enough to sort of take this from here, तब करेंगे क्या?
No, that's so
Identity
nice.
crisis हो जाएगा.
Nahi, but the love, the passion is so evident in your eyes when you're talking about it. It just shows. I think sometimes you don't have to say it. Like, I mean, it just shows. And मतलब 7 साल के बाद भी है अगर, and when you, like, starting was also कि अभी तो start ही हुआ है. It's just phenomenal. I love it. I mean, there is so much depth to that. But nahi, final question के लिए, I think I keep going back to the point. I feel like I've hosted now 200 plus founders on the show, and I feel this is what you have built is such a unique company, right? Like, you have gone against the norm of new age building. I remember starting that ISB panel with that as well, which is कि आपने bootstrap किया, funding नहीं raise की. आपने mass India के लिए बनाया, not for premium India. You priced it at 10 rupees. You went against a very, very large multinational giant with insane scale. You set up your own manufacturing, which is also like not the conventional wisdom. You did so many different things, and you built a truly category creating company. Tell us, I mean, summary nahi chahiye, but if you could go back to like 2016, right, and tell yourself a couple of things. This is not regret. This is just कि अगर हमें आपके 7 साल के experience से सीखना है, right? How do we do it in like the next 2-3 minutes as a summary? What would you tell yourself? Like, if you could go back, write to yourself, what would it be? Because it's so different, and now you know so much, right? So if you can go back, I think that'll be
it's quite
great.
simple. I think so. When we started out, even until 2020, 2021, we were scaling, we were growing. Chandigarh was not a very evolved ecosystem when it comes to startups. So we didn't really know about private equity funding. The only thing we knew was capital market or debt. Given the fact that all three of us, our parents were extremely strong of the opinion, or very adamant कि boss, you're not supposed to raise money via
External.
debt.
अच्छा दे.
So the only option we had was accruals. Whatever accruals we came in, we weren't drawing a lot of salaries, very minimalistic salaries, just trying to build capacities. Had we known that there is this route, and we literally did not go into the market came to us. They spotted us, and had we known that there's this route, we should have scaled faster. क्या hindsight में सब कुछ ऐसे लगता है कि पहले कर लेना चाहिए था, but in the moment we were just doing what we felt was right. Should have raised faster, should have done brand building when it comes to like spending on marketing a little earlier, because we were very conservative. We still are in writing big checks. तो क्या है कि आजकल जब हम बात करते हैं फाउंडर्स से, they're spending left, right, center, but it's important. It is working. The reality is, when you spend marketing dollars, it brings business, it brings volumes. We should have solved for capacity faster. We should have gone into contract manufacturing faster. We should have gotten senior leadership faster. We should have gotten the technology stack that we've built now faster, earlier. मतलब there are so many things that on hindsight we feel कि यार पहले क्यों नहीं किया. पहले वो confidence ही नहीं था. पहले वो हो रहा था कि यार शायद ये यहीं तक का. So first thought process was कि शायद this is a Punjab phenomenon. Then it was maybe a North India phenomenon. And then now we feel कि यार नहीं, the product is being accepted across. And there is no two ways about it when it comes to the craveability of the product. People like it across regions.
Love it. Yeah.
So फिर naturally it takes time for us to take those steps. It is a natural progression. We can't just jump to ladder 10. But when you think about it in hindsight, तो ऐसे लगता है
जल्दी कर लेते
हैं. क्यों नहीं? Had we done that earlier, we probably could have been the fastest growth story in India. मतलब अगर करा होता with that mindset, we weren't brave enough. I feel we should have been more brave. In summary, we should have been braver.
Nice. No, that is very, very powerful. Anything on the human side, qualitative side? कि मतलब कम stress लेना चाहिए था, वैसा कुछ?
नहीं. I think we were in it we've done loading ourselves literally. ट्रक के अंदर अब लेबर कम पड़ रही है तो खुद लेबर बन के लोडिंग कराई है, सब कुछ किया है. I think it was just a
Enjoyed
different
it.
energy. uh, Everything was important in building what we've built, because now today the three of us know the exact brick that has been used to build that factory. Every small little detail is something that we've done with our own hands, and therefore we know exactly what's going on. That can only happen if you do everything, every small little thing. So that energy needs to be there in a startup founder to be able to build from the scratch, to really know. And it also keeps you grounded.
Yeah.
पता ही नहीं, जब ऑफिस में बैठ के सब कुछ कर रहे हैं तो वो ऐसे होता नहीं. दैट देन यू सॉर्ट ऑफ गेट डिस्कनेक्टेड विद द बेस, द शॉप फ्लोर.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I think that is very, very well summarized. Be brave enough, have that faith earlier, but incredible what you've built, Saurabh. I'm a huge fan and you're so nice, kind, and I've learned so much today. I'm so glad we did this. It was definitely worth the wait. I know I've called you so many times for it, but you've always been kind to accommodate. And
As a matter of fact, I'd like to sort of say that it's actually a privilege to be here, because it's the kind of people that have come before me. The quality that you bring for the audience to sort of understand, and takeaways that you sort of bring to the table. It's become a, a large business on its own, podcasting and content creation, but very few people are doing right by it. It's become really commercial, and I think you were one of those guys who are doing right by it in terms of the information that is being passed on via this medium, and that was the basic idea behind it in the first place. Now it is being used for commercial purposes is a completely different thing. It's become a marketing thing, but to be doing it in the right way is very, very important, and I'm really happy to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure. And I'm sure everybody listening and who's made it this far would have enjoyed a lot and learned a ton. Thank you so much and love what you've done. Thank you. Thank you. Super. Hello. If you made it this far, you've probably watched the entire episode. And if you've done that, I'm really grateful. I and my team try to put in a lot of effort to ensure that we can bring the best quality content to you. So if you liked the episode, if you watched it thus far, my request to you is to share it with people, to subscribe to the channel, and to ensure that we can keep growing. We are everything and anything only because of you, our listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll keep bringing to you amazing content. Cheers.